Hey guys, this is Hell Hades. This is a Raid Shadow Legends video. Guys, today I want to help you with Dark Fae. Astranyx is one of the Doom Tower bosses that a lot of people struggle with. I want to kind of give you the breakdown of great champions to fight this fight. But before I do that, I want to walk you through how your team should work. Okay, so it's all well and good me just kind of like spieling out there's a whole bunch of champions that can help you. Unless you understand the mechanics, what you're trying to achieve in the fight, then actually a whole list of champions is not going to work. So let's start by showing you my team in action. I'm only on level 40 hard here because I was on a stag and stag do bachelor party, so I missed a bunch of Doom Tower over the weekend. But the concept of whether I'm on 40, 80, 120, whatever, it doesn't matter. Let me just take you through what my team's doing. And I'll kind of pause it when we get to the boss so you can understand the different roles that are in play here. And yeah, look, I've got a great team for this, okay? I do. It doesn't necessarily matter, though, as long as you can gather the concept. Okay, so we're going to go through what my team are doing. What you might notice here is all my team are doing basic abilities in Wave 2. Okay, they're not doing their big hitting abilities because I need to save them for the boss. Yeah, I need to save them for the initial part of the boss fight. So we get through Wave 2. Everyone's now got their main abilities to fight the boss. And the reason why this is so important is because when you're fighting your opponents, they've 100% got all of their abilities. So if you kind of like, you know, crawl in here with half your skills on lockdown, then your team are going to nuke you. Whereas actually the first part of this fight is to nuke your team. Yeah. What will happen here is everybody, although everyone's got exactly the same speed, your opponents have got the same speed and stats as you. You will always go first. Yeah, so if stats are equal, Raid set this up so that you go first. So you've got to do, at this initial part, you've got to do one of three things. You've either got to straight up just kill your enemy team, which is what I've got set up here. So my Hedgie will come in and nuke me, which means I'm just fighting the boss. Or, and this is probably the more common one, you need to turn me to control the enemy team or you. Yeah, so you're either pumping your speed up or you're dropping the enemy's turn meters down. The reason why that's important is because it then enables the rest of your team to get going before you start taking hits. So good champions for this would be champions like Lissandra, Deacon, Hikatoon, all of those kind of like speed freaks that push your turn meter, ideally push back the enemy turn meter at the same time and enable the rest of your team to have a go. It's like an arena fight, honestly. You're kind of like setting yourself up to then push the next group of champions in your team forward next. So once you've dropped their turn meter or improved yours, you need to be speed tuned so that the enemy team don't just straight up do the same thing and start to get a go. Yeah, and then you bring in some nukes. So you need somebody who's going to clean out your enemy team. Now, the important thing to note here is the tankier you make your team, the harder it is to kill your team. So generally, you want attack-based champions here that you can take down in one shot with a nuke. Ideally, whoever does the nuke also brings some value to your team. Yeah, so whether it's someone who's got a nuke with a decreased speed or some sort of turn meter control outside of their nuke, like my Hedgie nuke here, he's also got an A1 that does decreased speed, which is brilliant for the boss. Yeah, so trying to have a dual purpose is useful. If you don't have someone who does a full nuke, which is basically, it should be nobody, like you should, even Kale could come in and full nuke here. Yeah, I'm not going to say that. You do have it. You've got it. You just have to make sure that your team is speed tuned in the right way to do it. You might say, bring a drop defense before the nuke, but you have to be speed tuned so that you know your enemy team won't get a turn. Because if your enemy team start taking a turn, you're in trouble. Yeah, you're absolutely going to die. So make sure that you nuke these down next. The third thing, so I've talked about kind of straight one-shotting or speed controlling. The third thing, which is pretty damn valuable if you're struggling to just kind of like speed tune and nuke straight after your turn meter champion, is to bring control. And by that I mean a guaranteed lockout. It might be an AOE stun, AOE freeze, AOE provoke, AOE sleep. Like any of the full control abilities is fine. but you still have got to kill them. So it just means that you're bringing perhaps a couple more nukers rather than just one nuker. So that's the first part of the fight, is basically, do I kill my enemy team easily? Are they squishy enough just to die? The trouble with them being so squishy that they die easy is that if Dark Fae gets a go, I've got one person still up here, and that's my inbuilt super tank in Acrisia. If Dark Fae gets a go, then you're in trouble. Basically, she will nuke down squishy champions. So you absolutely, as soon as your team are nuked, you need to start turn meter controlling the boss. So everybody else in your team should have abilities which drop the boss's turn meter. You know, we'll go through some champions for that. But there's a lot of basic ones. You know, if you've got Coldheart, great. Armaga, brilliant. Allure, probably best in slot for this. You've then got like ramp ups from that to champions like upholstering, amazing. Your Carl, the freebie once you've kind of ground out the shards in the clan shop, brilliant for this. Yeah, there's a whole bunch. Royal Guard, excellent for this with his A3. Yes, there's a whole bunch of ways that we can do this. I'm just going to slow this down. So you can see here, my upholstering's about to go. I think I do this ability here, the triple hit. Yeah. So we're doing damage to the boss. Allure then goes for me and starts dropping turn meter. She does come in with that counter attack, which is nasty. I would ideally, I'd liked Acrisia to already be dead here, so that my Acrisia is doing the turn meter drop on the boss. But that's my bad for having not enough damage from my Hedgie. Yeah, that's basically what happened there. Now what we're doing is we're applying decreased speed, and now we're just using our turn meter control abilities as often as possible. But Allure, honestly, is so good here that she's able to keep turn meter down a lot. Your Carl is really good here as well at keeping turn meter down. And then ultimately, if you can stop the boss having a turn, you obviously definitely win. If you're definitely going to give the boss a turn, then you need some sort of healing mechanic or ability to cleanse off debuffs. But ideally, you just don't let the boss take a turn. So let's go through some champs. When I was actually preparing for the video, this is where I came, by the way, hellhades.com. It's a bit of a plug, but I'll be honest, it's a really good way of coming into this. So on the home page and on any champion page, just scroll down a little bit, you've got this section here. Quick links to abilities. So you can literally come in and say, right, who have got all of the increase or decrease turn meter mechanics? So yeah, so literally we list all of the champions in here. So decrease turn meter, increase turn meter. That kind of like covers the first part of the fight, yeah? So decrease turn meter champions, you're like, okay, well, who's in the mix here? And you start to see champions that do the ability. You still need to go in a bit deeper and make sure they're actually doing it in an effective way for what you want. So some of these will do it, but perhaps either they've got a super long cooldown on it or whatever. But, you know, take Nephril here as a legendary. Probably wouldn't have been someone that I called out today. But when you go into his kit, he's actually got an ability which will decrease the enemy's turn meter by 75%. And it hits hard. So you're doing two things here. You're turn meter controlling your enemy wave. And you're also giving them a good old smack at the same time. It's actually pretty damn cool. Just on quite a long cooldown on a 4-turn. He's also got a decreased speed ability. And he drops poisons if the boss has a turn. So actually, he's pretty decent for this. You know, it's probably not someone that I would have called out. So coming to these sort of pages are really useful. And similarly, like you can do this for anything. So if you want to find champions that do freeze, you could come into the freeze section or stun section. You could come in and be like, right, well, who actually does an AOE freeze? Because that's what you want, AOE. And you want it really to be 100%. Yeah, so, you know, you can kind of come in here. Your Cole popping up again. Yeah, we've got a couple of the new guys. So just read through the way their abilities work. You know, what percentage is it to land? You want a very high percent that it's going to land on all of your team. You want to make sure that, yeah, or ideally, they also want to bring something else to the party. Some other mechanic that's going to help you with this boss. But you can do the same for all of these different kind of roles that I'm talking about here on hellhades.com. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to call out what I think are the best ones. And obviously comment down below champions that you're using as well for similar tasks. So we'll start with some I guess we'll start with Armaga. Yeah, we're going to start turn meter control. Armaga, the ultimate freebie, honestly. He brings a great turn meter drop only for the boss. So he's a good turn meter controller for the boss rather than for your enemy team. And he's also bringing an enemy max HP hit to do more damage as well. But it might be, if you're struggling with turn meter control for the boss, you turn off the A2 and you just keep him A1 in non-stop. That's an option. Another kind of option for the boss in terms of turn meter is going to be the infamous Coldheart. Yeah, she's awesome at this. Does a big hit as well as a turn meter control. Whilst we're in this faction, this is an unsold hero for taking down your enemy team. Okay, her A3 is one of the best abilities to control speed. So what she's going to do here on the A3, and you need to make sure it's available when you fight your clones. She's going to put decreased speed on your enemy and on Dark Fae at the same time. It's really important it goes on Dark Fae at the same time. Gives you more time to kill your team and more time to then start turn meter controlling Dark Fae. It's actually a really good skill. And at the same time, she drops turn meter on all of the enemies by 40%. It's a huge, huge turn meter swing. Yeah. Outside of that, she's probably not bringing a lot to the fight, honestly. So you're just relying on this coming back. Probably what you would do if you were trying to like min-max this is put her in reflex gear, but fast. She needs to be the fastest on your team. Put her in reflex gear and turn off the A2. So ultimately, you're just trying to reduce the cooldown of this as much as possible. That's an option. But other than that, if you don't do that, you just want her to have enough accuracy to do her job, and you want her to be as fast as possible. So Silas, cool. We've got other kind of best in slots for that type of role. Is he Bannerlord or... okay, I was going to call out Deep, but while I'm here, I'm going to call out Stag Knight. Decreased speed on the A1, which is cool, with a decent chance to land it for the boss, and also set up to kill your enemy wave with the decreased attack and defense. Stag, he's not best in slot, but he's actually pretty decent here. The one I actually wanted to show you, though, was the infamous Deke. So Deke is going to give you speed in all battles as a lead. He's going to give you a turn meter push forward for your team and a drop backwards for the enemy team. So good. And he goes again, which means that you can then drop defense your enemy wave. Yeah. And then your nuker comes in, and it should be an easy job if drop defense is on your enemy wave. He's also bringing you leech against the boss. So if you have taken any damage, you can actually heal it back up with Deke in the team. It's very, very good for this. Another one, I'd say probably actually best in slot for turn meter control stuff is Lissandra. So she's just doing all sorts here. She's got increased speed for you, turn meter fill for you, and a drop turn meter for the enemy. It's so good. She's also bringing another turn meter deplete for the boss. Yeah, it's just crazy. This is speed in all battles, which is high. She's fast. Similar to Silas, really. Once you get her going, she should completely turn meter control the boss. I spoke about Royal Guard. Most people think of Royal Guard as a nuke, and he is. But actually, his A3 is really, really good for single target. This is more of a boss thing than killing your wave thing. Really good here at dropping turn meter. So each hit, if booked, 75% chance of putting decreased speed on the boss. Also, 75% chance for each hit of dropping her turn meter. It's really strong. I mean, there's tons of people that just do turn meter fill, by the way. So, you know, Apothecary does a turn meter fill on a low cooldown. It's only a 15% though, so you need to speed tune whoever's going next to come in right behind him. Yeah, otherwise you're just going to fail. So people like that exist. Diabolist exists, you know, freebies that you can just kind of pick up nice and early, especially if you're fighting the earlier kind of setup of this fight. So there's a bunch of them that can kind of give you that initial push. Another best in slot, which you saw on my team, is a lure for the boss, not for the waves, albeit she helps you on the wave. You could set her up if you're struggling for other champions to deal with the wave, to actually open with her A2, which gives you an AOE hit, a small drop defense chance, it's like a 50%, and she sleeps the enemy. Yeah, so she sleeps your enemy team. And then when she gets going on the boss, literally, so you would open with this and then tell her not to use it again in the setup. You would tell her not to use this ever and just A1 the boss whenever you get a turn. Make her quick, give her good accuracy and 100% crits, because she has to crit to do the A1. And then she's pretty much the best champion in the game to keep the Dark Fae's turn meter down. Some big ones who are just worth calling out, really, because maybe you don't know about them. Upholstering is so good for this fight. Like, he became an MVP. He's literally in some of the fastest teams in the game. He's got this A3, 4 hits at random. Obviously, if there's only one enemy standing, which is the boss, all those 4 hits are actually tunneled in. Yeah. So each hit books to 100% chance of stealing, not just dropping, stealing the turn meter. Yeah. So it's pretty nuts. 4 hits, each hit steals turn meter. So not only is he dropping the turn meter of the enemy, he's pushing his turn meter to go again. And what else has he got going here? Just a hard hit on his A2 as well. So yeah, it's just that A3 is super good. Super good. We've got your Carl, I spoke about already. Good for kind of actually could come in and do an AOE freeze against your enemy team. Cannot be resisted, so it doesn't need accuracy for that. This chance increases to 100% if people have got high turn meter, which they will do. Yeah, so it's just a great ability. And then his A2 brings you a decreased speed as well. Also steals 100% of the target's turn meter and puts increased speed on himself. Yeah, he's just very, very strong for this fight as well. So I do see a lot of your Carls in like high-end teams. Another one, High Cocoon, just freebie. Does turn meter feel for you. Turn meter drop here as well. Decent. She does decrease speed on her A1 as well. So everything about her kit is actually good for this fight. She's just not as good as some of the other ones I've spoken about already in terms of bringing like much else. But still, she can rotate you through your skills pretty damn quick and, you know, get the job done. And obviously, you saw it in my team here, but she's kind of good anywhere, I guess. Acrisia, flipping heck. This champion is nuts. So the main thing you're looking for here, the value you get is that she does this A3, books to 100% chance, double hit, 100% chance of stealing turn meter before she attacks. Yeah, so you really want this to be on the boss rather than against your enemy team. Like, it failed really on my one. But can't be resisted if the target's got higher max HP than her. Well, the boss does. Yeah, so this is just happening. And then everything she does is enemy max HP, which means that ultimately you're just going to do a ton of damage at the same time, which is why she's so valuable. The tricky part about her is that she decreases the damage taken from AoEs by 50%, which means that when you're trying to kill her, she's actually quite tanky. She's quite hard to kill. So yeah, that's the only kind of watch out, I guess. Like I said earlier, the champions you want to bring, you need to be able to kill them quick. You don't want them staying there tanking up, because ultimately, the longer they're there, the harder it is for you to get to the Dark Fae and start turn meter controlling Dark Fae. In terms of, you know, just being able to kind of, I guess another one you could use in a different way is Geo. Put the burn on the boss, does turn meter drop as well. And if Dark Fae has a turn, then he starts to do a ton of damage, but it's not ideal, honestly. It's not an ideal strat, but not a bad one. There are a few more like obscure turn meter droppers. Like you've got, where is he? Lich here on his A3. Decreases the target's turn meter by 100% and puts decreased speed on the boss. So that's very cool. I think there's even like, is it Stitch Beast? Yeah, you just got some random ones that just do like a bunch of turn meter drop. So it kind of depends what you've got available in your team, but you need a bunch of them. I'll tell you a really cool one as well that I use on my free-to-play. Skim Foss is so good for this fight as well. Steals turn meter here. He's got an AoE hit to help you through your wave, and he's got a decreased speed as well with turn meter drop on it. There's just like a whole bunch of them in the game that can help you through that kind of initial part of the fight. Yeah, so in terms of kind of like other abilities that could just control your wave, there's tons of them, you know. You're just looking for people that do a consistent freeze, sleep, or stun. Yeah, I was actually thinking about Kaimar does an AoE sleep. He also does a reset of your skills and a turn meter fill. So he could literally be go first, turn meter fill, and get your team moving, or go first, sleep your enemy team, and then when you get back, you reset everyone's skills so that they get them again. Very cool. Yeah, anyone with an AoE stun, so you might have from a past fusion someone like Astranyx Really good chance to 100% stun your enemy team. Anyone who does that type of skill, they're not as easy to find, honestly. And I would push for speed into nuke rather than speed into control. But it depends really what you've got. So yeah, so if we're looking at the AOE stunners here, I was just having a look on this. You know, you've got like Fushan does a part 1. Scylla the Drakes does a part 1, but she might be hard to kill because she's defense-based. You might have got Radash in that kind of like guaranteed. You might have got Stultus recently. There's a whole bunch of legendaries that would do the job. There's less rares and epics that do the job here on stuns. It's very rare to get someone with a high percentage chance to stun the whole enemy team. Like Huss does it on like a 50%. Archmage Helmet's got a good one. Hoskarul's, I think, maybe the best for an epic champion in terms of actually landing like an AoE stun. What's he got? Like a 75% chance with a bit of turn meter stuff going on as well. Again, no, I think he's defense-based, so yeah, it's going to be harder to kill. So yeah, the stunnage and the freezing, there's less options, but it depends what you've got on your roster, you know, as to whether that's the path you're going to take. When it comes to nukage, I mean, obviously there's just a bazillion champions that can do the nuke. So what you want to make sure is that they're bringing something else to the party. Yeah, a nuker that can do some form of turn meter drop, some form of decreased speed, or some form of like increasing your attack, or in some form of increase for your team to give them a bit more value. Because anyone could come in, honestly, and just do damage. Like there's a bazillion champions on your roster that could do that role. So a good example of one that people use, I don't have him, but Herndig here. So Herndig can literally just like A1 down your enemy team, get stasis strike back, or he could go A1 into A2. So he comes in, gets his abilities back, does an AoE drop defense, which actually will just kill the whole enemy team because he smacks. And then he's also got this full deplete turn meter. So this champion's like probably one of the best in slots for fighting Dark Fae as well. He's also got this passive here that fills his turn meter every time he takes a hit. So if something's going wrong, he will get back to his skills really, really quick. So yeah, Herndig's pretty damn cool for that type of stuff. But yeah, there's a whole bunch, as I say, of nukers. There's also different strats in terms of nuking down your enemy team. So you might have someone like an ally attacker. She's probably not the best in slot for it, but I just picked her out of random to saw her. But someone who does ally attack consistently, yeah, there's quite a lot in the game. Let's pick out someone who's kind of like top draw for this. So Lanakis here does 3-team ally attack. Also fill in your turn meter, yeah, at the same time. And she's going to bring buffs later on. So if she does that, you bring her in with someone who's got an absolute smack of an A1 AoE. So you might have Bella in your team. You might have Cupidus in your team. Yeah, someone who's going to be able to come in with an ally attack and slam down your enemy team could be quite a cool way of taking down like the initial wave. But again, you need to follow it up with champions that are then going to turn me to control Dark Fae. So look, I hope that video is useful. Probably a bit of a different stance on it than just reeling off a load of champions. But hopefully it helps you understand the fight better and therefore to look into your roster and actually find champions that will do the role. There you go, guys. I've been Hell Hades. I'll see you later.